Hey guys, welcome back to the second video in my two-part series regarding drags and pulls on liquidity. We're focusing on the main factors that cause a company's liquidity position and their cash position to deteriorate. So I did a video on drags on liquidity, which focuses more on sort of cash inflows and factors that can cause cash inflows to slow down or take longer to receive, or to never arrive at all. Today we're going to focus more on the pulls on liquidity. So this is focused more on the cash outflows, so factors that cause cash to flow out of the business more quickly. So yeah, we're going to run through the four factors, and yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, as I was saying in the intro, we're thinking about pulls on liquidity now. So pulls on liquidity are factors that cause a company's cash outflows to accelerate. So factors that lead to a company paying out cash to third parties more quickly, and that means that they've got less liquidity on hand and potentially in a weaker position to be able to fund their short-term liabilities. It's also where the availability of trade credit financing becomes limited. So when it's difficult to receive short-term funding and financing from a company's suppliers or their vendors, that's another factor that we'll look at, which all feeds into a pull or a drain on a company's liquidity. So yeah, there are four factors. The first one involves paying creditors too early. So when a company pays its suppliers, vendors, employees before they're required to, i.e. before their required due dates, this will reduce a firm's liquidity and will speed up and accelerate the cash outflows. So a company obviously needs to pay their suppliers and their employees on time, but there's a little bit of a trade-off, because you don't want to pay them too early and then you've got no cash on hand, but you obviously don't want to pay them too late. The general advice when it comes to thinking about maintaining an adequate liquidity position is to pay your vendors and your suppliers and your employees on time. Don't pay them any earlier than you need to. Paying creditors too early will mean a company is generating cash outflow sooner than it needs to, and it's effectively foregoing cash that it could invest elsewhere within the business to earn a financial return, to pay its liabilities. So yeah, paying creditors too early is one of the primary pulls on a company's liquidity position. The second pull is when suppliers and vendors offer worse credit terms to the company. So if a firm has a history of delinquencies, i.e. late payments to its suppliers and its vendors, those parties who've supplied the company may restrict the firm's credit terms and ask for quicker repayment going forward, or even charge the company with financial penalties. So yeah, if a company's failed to pay its suppliers in the past or has paid them way too late, that can end up having a negative impact on the company, because suppliers will put more stringent terms on them going forward. So they'll have shorter windows to repay their suppliers and their vendors, which will reduce the company's liquidity position and speed up the time within which cash outflows leave the business. And again, yeah, this is a pull on liquidity, because it means that the company will have to use more of its own cash to fund its short-term liabilities, as opposed to using funding from suppliers or vendors, and this will reduce the company's liquidity position. The third pull on liquidity relates to limits on short-term lines of credit. So a company's bank may limit lending to the company, which could reduce its liquidity position or lead to liquidity constraints. And again, this will force a company, if they can't borrow from lenders, it will force the company to use more of its own cash to meet its financial obligations. So again, cash is leaving the business more quickly. The liquidity position is being pulled down. And then fourth and finally, low liquidity positions. So some companies, due to the industry they're in or the sector that they're in, face ongoing chronic liquidity shortages due to, like I said, industry conditions that are ongoing, cyclical, or just due to a company-wide weak financial position. So yeah, That's sort of more industry sector specific, and that pull can be sort of exacerbated by following a more aggressive approach to working capital management. So yeah, that's the 4 pulls on liquidity. Hopefully that was helpful. This is my second video in a 2-part series, which is focused on the drags and pulls on liquidity. So hopefully that's all kind of made sense. And yeah, in terms of exam scenario, you'll be asked to comment on or address whether a factor is a drag or a pull on liquidity, and whether it could lead to a cash inflow, a cash outflow for the business. But yeah, any questions, feel free to fire them off in the comments, and I'll be happy to take them. And I'll see you guys in the next video.